Hey everybody out there, it's Crazy Red, dead, not live. And I am doing a series of videos on my crazy adventures and my crazy life and my crystal skulls and blood moons. And we are actually on episode number 7. And I'm trying to keep these monologues down to about half an hour. And we'll be cutting in footage later and everything, but quick recap. Up to this point, we've covered a lot of shit, and well, let's see, where did we leave off at? Oh yeah, this is the part where I get busted for growing hemp, and my friend kills himself, and my ex-girlfriend, my partner at the time, turns out to be a total pathological liar and full-blown narcissistic sociopath, who I just happen to also have turned myself into the police to protect, only to have her stab me in the back. And yeah, at that point, my life went to shit, okay? There's no other way around it. There's no way to talk about it without having to relive some of the pain. But long story short, my visions, my feelings about the plants that I had in the studio in Nashville turned out to be true. And after a couple of days of trying to figure out what to do, I did turn myself in to take responsibility for the plants, and ended up going to jail for a week. And then Julie did get me out, and she had to go through a lot of shit, I'm sure, while I was in jail, although I'm sure it was probably more fun than going to jail would have been. And at the time, you know, we didn't really know what I was facing, other than we knew I had 4 felonies for 2 plants with no buds, which I thought was absolutely fucking ridiculous. And it was a traumatic scene, people, to be honest with you. Even though Julie had gone to the trouble of bailing me out, she was very upset with me and became, unfortunately, very verbally abusive, and then started to put her hands on me, and I had to tell her to leave. And I regretted it, and I begged her to come back, but she took it as, I'm out the door, dude, later. She moved in with another dude and started running around the town, you know, just making a fucking fool out of me. And I started to drink, and I got upset, and there was a lot of shit going on. There was another blood moon coming up too, and it was that October. And without having to go through all the details, all I can tell you is that it really fucked my head up. And I really felt like this is the payback. This is what I get for not listening to the spirit. This is what I get for leaving the valley and not completing my mission. This is what I get for choosing to go for fame and fortune and love and happiness and, you know, all these things that I thought were good things. You know, honestly, you know, I thought me and Julie were doing good things, okay? I didn't realize that I was working with somebody that really had no interest in me at all, or the things that we were doing, and it was just about the money. And as far as I'm concerned, it still is. I hate this, you know, but I'm doing the best I can to get through this without being too harsh or just going off on rants. But I can tell you that this is the point in the story where my perfect life goes to shit. Absolutely goes to shit. And what I believed in is completely thrown out the window. You know, I wish I could say nicer things about what happened with me and Julie. And I almost wish I could take more responsibility, to tell you the truth. Like, I wish I could tell you that I was a real fucking asshole about the whole thing, but I really wasn't. And I did everything I could to just maintain and hold together throughout the whole thing. But ultimately, you know, I had a really hard time accepting some of the shit that Julie was doing to me. And because of what was going on with the legalities of some of the bullshit that I had to deal with, that was definitely not helping the situation. You know, it was just making a bad situation worse anyway around it. And I was really starting to lose my mind. Okay, people, like that's the whole reason why I got to bring all this shit up, because it is a part of the story. And just because that relationship ended, things between me and her, at least spiritually, did not end there. And so she does continue to be a part of the story. And so I'm sorry, Julie, if you feel like I'm just being a big dick by doing this shit to you, but you know, you're responsible for your part of the story, and just like we all are. And it's a big part of why I went back to Hawaii. And yes, I probably could have stayed in Asheville, although I fear that if I had stayed in Asheville, I would have probably committed suicide or gone after, either more likely would have gone after one of Julie's new suitors. Because as much as, you know, I didn't like some of the things that Julie was doing, I'm one of these kind of guys that, you know, I'd rather not put my hands on a girl, you know what I'm saying? But if like I'm that mad at a chick and she's talking to a dude might just have to, you know, hey, sorry, dude, talking to my girl. So I was really more worried about me hurting somebody else than I was about hurting Julie. But I could have definitely seen myself just walking up to any dude she was talking to after a while and just knocking them the fuck out and trying to put their teeth down her throat, which is not really how I want to be, but that was how I felt, you know. So all you people talk about your authentic feelings. Well, what if my authentic feelings is to stick my boot up your fucking ass? You know what I mean? But that's where it really boiled down to. And there was a time when I really wanted to chase after Julie, even though she had left. And she'd even left me the car to sell. So, I mean, technically I could have just jumped in the car and chased after her. But for all I know, she didn't even go back to freaking Rehoboth, whatever. I don't want to get too involved in all that bullshit right now. I have to talk about all that crap. But bottom line is I was feeling like I had to do something to reverse the dogma, the karma, the flow, whatever you want to call it, because things were just going in a way that I was seriously seeing myself just completely losing it. And I was drinking heavily. I did start to drink heavily after she left, and became very angry. I definitely will admit that I called her up a few times, told her to go fuck herself, and then called her up again and said, hey, I'm sorry, you know, I went through that whole trip. If they ever made a movie out of my life, they'd have to throw that scene in there. The pathetic, pissed off, angry, jealous boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, or whatever I was at that point. But and I had to deal with legal shit, and I had to go to court, and there was just so much stress that it's best to try to jump past this as quickly as possible and move on to the next important milestone here in episode 7. And so I went back to the islands to try and fix what I had fucked up. And I knew there was a big giant blood moon coming up on 2018, but I also knew there was another one, although it wouldn't be visible, would still be very prominent. And so I chose to go back to the islands and bury the crystals at the crystal at the next blood moon. Oh, and that's the other thing. I kind of skipped a thing here. But we'll cover that later. Right now, let's just try to move forward from my life falling apart and going back to the island. And one of the things I did, and here's the thing. I was worried that if I chased after Julie, we would get back together, or at least we would try. And I kept thinking about the dreams that I had when we came back from Key West, and about the spirits attacking me, and then having the dream of waking up in the hospital, being told that I killed somebody in a car wreck, or was a part of a car wreck where somebody died, and it being a woman. And so, and having had visions come true, and just recently had some really powerful visions come true, with the plants being ripped out of the ground, I was afraid. I was like, I got to go back and just fix this shit first. So before I worried about chasing after Julie, before I worried about doing my probation after court, I just went back to the island to bury the crystals during the next blood moon in some hopes of fixing the karma. And that was when I went back to Kauai and went back out to the valley and was out there. And I wasn't really out there right away. I was actually on an island for a couple months, and then I made it out there. And I was out there for maybe 6 weeks tops. I wasn't out there that long. But I was out there long enough to shoot some videos and bury the crystals. And I cut myself off from the internet. I just kind of crawled into my own little world. And a part of me just kept praying and hoping that Julie would come running down Red Hill, screaming angry monkey, and throw herself at me and say she was sorry for all the bullshit. But that never happened. And while I was out there, I did have some stuff come through. But in reality, it was sort of uneventful, okay, in a way, at first anyway. It was really quiet that year. It was dry that year. It was a dry winter. We called it White Summer. And although there was some definite wahinis running around in the valley and everything, I was too fucked up in the head to even enjoy myself while I was out there, to be honest with you. I was reeling from everything that had happened, including my friend committing suicide, which I had actually gone back to the place where he had committed suicide. And there was some weird stuff happening now that I think about it, because there were these kids and these people showing up there all the time. And this one kid showed up and started literally hovering over the edge like he was going to kill himself. And then told me he was hearing voices. And, see, the thing, when my friend Sean committed suicide, there was a part of me that really felt like, fuck, man, if I hadn't ran off with Julie and search of all this fame and fortune and shit, if I had just stayed in Kalalau and did my bid as the shaman of Kalalau, which, even though I don't want to put that title on me, that's what it was looking like. I couldn't help thinking that Sean would still be here. And that if I had been out there when he went out there, he wouldn't have killed himself. He wouldn't have done that in front of me. I can tell you that right now. You know what I mean? He would have sat there and told me about how it all went down. And that was the thing, because when I went back there the first time to bury the crystals, and met Julie, I had Ho'oponopono with Sean, which, we made peace and had this, emotional release and everything. And then a couple of nights later, I heard him out there omen on the bluff, and went out there and talked to him. He was hanging out by Mama Rock, which is a rock we all know. And we were talking about our moms and about how many people had spread their ashes of their mothers off this rock, and the different stories and so we started swapping stories about how our mothers had passed away. And my real mom passed away years ago, and I still have, lucky enough to have a stepmom that I love very much, so I have two moms. But my biological mother did pass away some years ago, and he as well, my friend John, had his mom had also passed away recently, and so he was kind of struggling with that. And he told me that one day, when his time came, he would just come out to Kalalau and he would ohm naked off of Mama Rock and leave a sweatshirt behind. And that sweatshirt ended up making it to North Carolina because somebody saw it and sent it to me. And the stuff going on with my life falling apart and all these connections to the island and feeling like I had let everybody down, I felt like I had to go back and fix it. And so that's why I went back. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time chopping down Java Plum or trying to do all this other work. Instead, I just focused on that one fucking Java Plum and that one spot where I'd found that crystal. And by the time I got out there, I had collected 3 crystal skulls. One, which is a bigger pinkish rose quartz crystal that I actually got off a guy at 8 Mile when me and Julie hiked out, actually. It was I think the only time me and her ever actually hiked the trail together. And we stopped at 8 Mile, and this kid told me this crazy story about this tweaker bitch giving him his crystals. And I told him the story about my crystal skull, and he says, well, you know what? I think you should have this one. So that's how I picked up that one. And then while I was out there, I picked up a green one from the Gold Ninja that was actually at Sean's camp. And so I had a collection of 3 crystals now that I was planning on burying, and no sexy sound healer showed up, but I did make friends with a young lady on the bluff who I ended up becoming friends with. Nothing happened, we just were friends. And she will come into the story later some more. But she was definitely a fan and enjoyed some pizza on Christmas with me. And there was this magical moon bow that we had on Christmas Eve after pizza over the river mouth that definitely made me feel like Sean had sort of smiled down upon us that day. And there was definitely some stuff that came through, but for the most part, it was sort of uneventful in a way. Although sound healers did show up, and that was the trippy part. Was I really kept hoping Julie would show up and like help me do this ritual or something, and we could bury this crystal together, and we could heal our wounds and have ho'oponopono. But you know, she was too busy running around with whoever for all that, and. But these kids showed up, and they were sound healers, and they traveled all over the world doing sound and playing music, and they wanted to do a sound on the bluff. And it was the night before I buried the crystals, and then the night of the burial, these couple of ninjas of mine showed up unexpectedly. Because I needed somebody to help me move this rock that I put on top of these crystals. I needed 2 dudes, actually. This rock is so big that it takes at least 3 fucking people, or at least 3 people, or like Mowgli and you know, Oboe Bar, or whatever they call those things, to move this rock. So it all worked out in a way. You know, like it came together. Like the things I needed came together, and it worked out. And buried the crystals, and then went to town. And it was weird because, you know, I've always sort of subscribed to this belief, to follow your gut, especially when it comes to the valley. So when I say the valley calls to me, it usually does. But then there's other times when it just doesn't. And after I buried the crystals and got out, it just did not call to me. And it was like, the valley had said, okay, you did what you needed to do. Now you need to go figure out what else, you know, go take care of the rest of your shit. And I was planning on hopping over to Maui, and I was in town. And I had been in town actually for a while. It had been like a good month since I'd been even out there. And this is where the rabbit hole just got way fucking deeper, okay? Because, you know, I wasn't having much luck. I still was really stressed out about all the stuff I had to deal with. And so that was my main goal, was to go back and do my time and everything. And take care of my probation, and maybe try to talk to Julie, because I hadn't really talked to her in a while. I thought maybe there might be a chance to at least talk some stuff out. And while I was in town, I got picked up by this dude, Tom Hash, we call him, or not Tom Hash, Tom Ass. Sorry, I got it confused for a minute. But he picked me up and offered me a ride down to Lahui, where I was going to hang out and wait for my flight, which was going to be in a couple of days. And we get halfway down there. We get down to like where the Ace Hardware is, and he stopped off at this house, probably to get high. In fact, I'm pretty sure he went into this house to get high, and then came out. I don't know what he got high on, but this guy got in the driver's seat and started flooring it down this back road, rural streets of Kapa'a town. And I just knew something was going to go bad. I knew it right then and there, and prepared myself for a crash. And I swear to God, this happened, okay? He turns to me, looks at me, says, "Come on, Red, let's go die together in a big giant ball of fucking flames and become famous." And just starts driving as fast as he possibly can and starts hitting things with the truck. And he bounced off about 2 cars before hitting a wall. And we went head into this wall. And I know we hit a wall, and my head got banged up against the side of the truck, and I got out yelling at him like, "You motherfucker, goddamn it, motherfucker." I was pissed, and I was hurt, and I was angry, and I was ready to kick the shit out of this guy. And there was locals out. There was kids playing outside. Okay, it was like dusk. It was around that time where it's still a little bit light out, but it's gonna get dark. And so there was still Keiki running around. There were locals outside just cruising, and they came up like, "Whoa, what happened, man?" And I was pissed off, and I'm not as like intimidated or scared by locals as some haoles are. So I was just totally cussing this dude out and causing a scene, and the locals were like, "Yo, dude, what happened?" And I'm like, "This motherfucker right here, bro, he picked me up cuz he fucking gets all fucking high and it smashes this fucking truck up. Like, what the fuck?" And they're like, "All right, well, chill out, cuz, like my uncle's sleeping over there." That's how Hawaiians are. And, I was like, "I was just hitchhiking, brah." And they're like, all right, well, like, brah, go sit over there and be quiet, because they really didn't want a big scene. They had enough going on in that neighborhood that the last thing they wanted was more trouble with the cops. So, they were totally chill with me, and they were like, "Yo, dude, just go sit over there on that wall and just, my cousin lives there. Go sit on his wall and act like you don't know shit and don't say nothing, and nobody will say nothing." And I was far enough away that I didn't even see what happened after that. I saw lights, cop lights and whatnot, and I'm sure they towed the truck. I don't know if they ever even talked to dude, because I saw a dude like 2 days later, and he was cruising around Kapa'a, so he may have gone the other direction for all I know. And they never put 2 and 2 together. But I do know that they grabbed the truck. I do know that much. So I do know that it was a different accident in a different vehicle altogether from what will eventually become another part of the story. But I was hurt. I was hurt pretty bad, and I was pretty shook up. And I had been drinking quite a bit that day, actually, but I hadn't been driving. And I wasn't letting dude drink either, which was kind of the irony behind it, because I was like, "We get to Lahui, brah, I'll buy you all the beer you want, but until we get there, just, fly straight." And he had to stop off at this house and get fucking high, which I'm pretty sure is what happened. Why he went so psycho after that. Why he chose to like throw in the whole like, "Come on, Red, let's go die together in a big giant ball of flames." I'll never know. But that was some scary shit, and we're getting close here to the end of this segment, but pretty soon you'll be hearing the sirens. And there they go. There they come. But we'll be talking more about the accident that I was in, and then another accident that occurred, and how the dreams that I had, I believe, related to this accident and why it's all connected. But in the meantime, enjoy the tunes, and we'll see you in the next episode.
for me. Something you call love, but confess, you've been a messin' where you shouldn't have been a messin'. And now someone else is getting all your best. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. Yeah. You keep lying when you ought to be truthin', and you keep losing when you ought to not bet. You keep saying when you ought to be a changin'. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. You keep playing where you shouldn't be playing, and you keep thinking that you'll never get burned. Ha! I just found me a brand new box of matches, yeah. And what he knows you ain't had time to learn. These boots are made for walking, and that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. Are you ready, Boots? Start walking.